Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to another edition of Paradigm Shift, an educational comedy. I'm Dave Kelso. We're here with Richard Hamilton, and we're speaking with Patrick Doyle of Veritas Counseling on the importance of mental health, providing you, our viewers, with a free online virtual visit of sorts to his digital couch. Patrick has a very reliable consulting style that draws upon his personal experience as much as his professional training. He has over 25 years experience in therapeutic counseling. He's been the assistant director for Genesis and something I'm not sure how to pronounce, ASANTE, Health Systems Drug and Alcohol Treatment Center. He has been on the board of directors for Southern Oregon Drug Awareness and assisted in several domestic violence task forces and treatment programs in Jackson and Josephine counties. He is a pastor, a television and radio talk show host, and a guest speaker for countless seminars and retreats. Pat is married with 2 young adult sons. His popular television and radio show covers a range of controversial topics, and all the rest of the information is available at his website and so on and so forth. The main topic for today is going to be talking about the racket, scam, and otherwise scumbaggery within Big Pharma, and getting, the scoop from a professional in the field, because obviously I'm not in his career field, neither is Rick, so who best to know than somebody who's actually had years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, Patrick, you are on the soapbox. Welcome to Paradigm Shift Initiative.
Thank you. I'm really thankful that somebody other than me wants to talk about this. As somebody who sat in an office with people who are on psychiatric medications for years and worked in drug and alcohol treatment agencies where we detoxed people off psychiatric meds for years, I have a very up-close and personal understanding of what happens when someone takes these meds, what happens when someone gets off these meds, and the discrepancy between what's propagated and what's actual. And I see a lot of human suffering as the result of doctors prescribing medications that they, A, don't really understand what they're going to do, B, don't know what they're going to do, even if they do understand it, and C, have no idea what it's going to do when that person gets off. D, the very well-documented long-term brain damage that these medications do. They actually do no balancing, they do destruction. And I would refer anybody who's interested in a expert's opinion on these things to look up Dr. Peter Breggin, who has, in my mind, done the best and most appropriate research on this and has become an expert witness in many cases against the big pharma. And he is a guy who I would, if you're interested, any book that he's got about the subject, I would encourage you to read. He's got a website. But
and for the grammatically challenged, how do you spell his name?
Peter Breggin is Breggin. And he wrote a book that really caught my attention years ago. It was a book called Toxic Psychiatry. And in that book, he starts to delineate some of the research findings that he's had and his own personal experience as a psychiatrist. He himself is a psychiatrist. And so he became a good person to blow the whistle on his own community. And, there are some very difficult realities that surround how the psychiatric community develops diagnoses. They don't have a blood test or any, empirical evidence. They just make an opinion. Then they write it down in the DSM-4 or 5, and now you're that. And it's very different than most science. I really want to come at it from the personal, problem that it creates in the person who goes to a doctor because they're struggling, and then they get medications and their struggles worsen. And I hope in some way that our country can start to see this for what it is. And as somebody who's walked, thousands of people through difficulty, I know that there's another way. You don't have to be medicated.
So for the uninitiated, the the DSM stands for the Demonic Sadist Manual, or what does it stand for?
Well, that might be one interpretation, but on the book it says Diagnostic Statistic Manual, 4th edition or 5th edition, and that's basically the psychiatric Bible. It's so all insurance companies, as soon as you come into and this is one of the things that I've departed from when I got out of the agency world and I started my own practice, I decided to be outside of all of the insurance business, because an insurance company, the first thing they want you to do as a therapist is to put a diagnosis code on a patient. Well, if somebody comes in for counseling, there's no need to diagnose them necessarily. Not everyone needs a diagnosis. However, the way the industry is set up, without a diagnosis, you don't get reimbursement. So when I got into the business on my own, what I decided I would do all private pay, and I would stay completely out of the insurance game, because the vast majority of my early career, that was my biggest headache, is people in an insurance agency who want to validate or justify what I'm doing that don't have any counseling background. They're just bean counters. So, and then the other thing is that the other thing that the insurance companies are going to require is they're going to require a certain level of documentation. And having worked in the agency world for years and having sat in many court cases with a file in my hand and had a judge look at me and say, I order you to open the record, and then me opening the record and basically a lawyer gets hold of information that a therapist wrote about their client, now is used in a legal setting. I've seen people lose their parental rights. I've seen a lot of damage done by that lack of confidentiality. So when I got into my own practice, one of the other reasons why I didn't take on the insurance game was because I didn't want to have to make an official record. So now if I get a court subpoena that's, for my records, I don't have one. I am the record. So I'll go to court if necessary, and I'll tell you what I believe you need to know, but I get to protect the client's confidentiality because I'm not going to say something that I think is going to incriminate them. Whereas if it's a written record, the idea of confidentiality is a myth.
Goes out the window.
Yep.
Yeah, I've always kind of found it suspicious that they refer to it as a practice. So it's like they're practicing on us. We're guinea pigs out here in the public.
Yeah, and in medicine, most of medicine is a very exact science. It's changing all the time. There's new discoveries. So, yeah, in terms of the thing that I get concerned about is, what I'm really getting concerned about lately is the rapid increase of young children on psychotropic medications. That can do irreversible long-term brain damage. That's been proven. And again, I would refer you to Dr. Peter Breggin, who's done the best research on that. And there's others. If you go to his website particularly, you will find particularly a couple of European scientists who have really done some good work on this. But, the idea that we've been sold a bill of goods that, look, if you have mental illness, the problem is that you have a problem in brain chemistry. Did you realize, I don't know if you knew this, but there is no empirical evidence that any mental illness is biological.
Yep, I totally knew about that. As a matter of fact, I think that all of the quote-unquote valid aspects of psychology actually classify more under neurology, seeing as neurology actually deals with the brain, whereas the rest of it is just, hocus pocus, whatever, somebody's opinion is that is just, taken as, the law. As a matter of fact, a lot of, you see all the crazy commercials about, oh, this drug is to help you with this. Side effects may include, and then this big nasty list here. And I like to tell people, those aren't the side effects. That's what the drug does.
Exactly. One of my favorite side effects is anal seepage.
Ew.
I don't know what problem I have that requires me to have that, but I don't want it.
If your erection lasts for more than 4 hours, high five your partner.
One thing
you may have been at a whorehouse. So
I think Rich was trying to. I think Rich was trying to say something. What were you trying to say there, Rich?
Oh, I was just going to make the quick little side note. One of the main things I've noticed with, a lot of these big pharma, mainstream pharmaceutical drugs, or the drugs that they push, yeah, they may be partially designed to help treat or, potentially, be a preventative for a problem, but generally all of those side effects are there, I mean, they think of this stuff kind of like a science, all these different side effects that they include and add on all this stuff, it just creates a plethora of other problems that then need to be diagnosed by other drugs that then they try to push and sell to you. Oh, you have this problem? Well, there's another drug to treat that has like another branch of side effects that then there's another rainbow bridge of drugs to treat all those side effects. It's just the money just trickles up with all the side effects,
Yeah, and I've come to calling that the medication merry-go-round. You need one for this, and then that does this, and then you need that drug for this, and then and anybody who wanted to know what was really wrong with you, there's no way they could ever figure it out because you don't know whether it's the drug or some actual biological pathology.
Mm-hmm. And so, then, of course, to say anything that you're saying on this hangout automatically means that you have a mental illness. Apparently, that's their attitude about it. And it's funny, most people don't realize that, back in the Stalin days, in that regime, they actually had on record that nonconformity to communism is a psychological mental disorder. So basically, if you don't agree with Stalin, then you've got something wrong up here. And I see America going down exactly that same road. If you don't agree with everything the government says, you have a mental disorder. And in fact, there's a name for it. It's called ODD, or oppositional defiant disorder.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing that bothers me in the psychiatric movement is that, I'm of the opinion that labeling people is very unloving. When you label someone, in my mind, you cease to love them, and now you've categorized them, and you've, basically, in essence, you can call it what you will, but you've prejudged them, and you cease to listen, you cease to be involved, you cease to see them for who they are. And so then you talk about, what I was talking about, the insurance world, which drives the diagnoses, and then you have someone diagnosed, okay, now that person's told this is your label, and this is your label because you have a defective brain chemistry, and the only way to deal with this is there's no hope because it's irreversible, and it's lifelong, so your only hope is to take these medications that make you better for the rest of your life. But what's not being said is A, none of those things I just said are true, and B, the medication is not going to heal anything because there's no evidence, zero evidence, remember, that any of this is biological. So then instead of actually treating the problem that the person is having, like, I don't know, maybe they're traumatized, I don't know, maybe they're in a difficult relationship, I don't know what their situation is, but I can guarantee you it's something because I've got 25 years of experience that says that's the case. And then now they believe they're broken. That's hope inspiring, and that there's no way around this. You have to keep this the rest of your life, and the only way to deal with it is to be on these medications and make you a zombie. That is very loving and very kind of us to do to people. And the truth be told, dealing with these things is not easy. It is a process. It takes energy. It takes real love, and you can't be uninvolved. You have to be involved in some way, and subsequently, the other thing that gets lost is these people get moved out of the community, whatever that is, and into this special category. No one ever heals in that process.
Yeah, exactly. Two quotes come to mind. It is no measure of health to become well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. That's one from Jiddu Krishnamurti. And The other one, I'm not sure which psychiatrist actually said this, but they said that neurological disorder is a completely understandable effect that comes from an increasingly totalitarian society. So the more you build stress on stress on stress on stress, and
Right.
a lot of people don't realize that the whole idea behind paradigm shifting and working out these issues and addressing belief systems and so on and
Right.
so forth. A lot of people think that it's just a lot of ideological nonsense, but there is actually a physical, neurological component to that. Because, okay, take for example, things like depression. Um, Depression and things like that are basically an emotional negative feedback loop. You're feeling sad about feeling sad about feeling sad about feeling sad about, etc. Feeling angry about feeling angry about feeling angry about feeling angry, etc. It creates a black hole, so to speak, an emotional black hole. And the way the brain works, the more you practice something, first it starts in declarative memory, which means it's not automatic, it's not integrated into the neural networks. At first you have to keep declaring it, but then once you practice at it enough, it goes into non-declarative memory, which means the neural networks are formed. So these are hardwired neural networks. And neural networks, most people don't know, can be created and dismantled. And in the meantime, you have, if you're trying to create a neural network to dismantle the previous neural network, for a while you have two existing in simultaneous opposition that fire at once to the same stimulus. And that, if anything, is what quote unquote bipolar is, but the other name is cognitive dissonance, to where you're used to one mode of operation, and then you've got another mode of operation simultaneous that is in direct conflict to that. But the more you practice the new behaviors, the way the brain works is that any behaviors that are used less and less and less, the brain starts to physically discard them or deconstruct that neural network. But that doesn't happen in a second. People expect to plant a tree seed today and have a 40-foot tree tomorrow, so to speak, because we've been raised to see time as the enemy because of the totalitarian school system. Oh, you have to jump through all these hoops, homework deadlines on Friday, got to do it now, otherwise you're going to fail. You're a failure. Fail, fail, fail. So we develop these neural networks that time is the enemy. So we want everything now. And that's where all this sense of instant gratification and apathy and entitlement and all the stuff that is in society now comes from. But there is obviously a physical neurological component, and you're not stuck with any neural network you have. Through that process of working things out and facing things, like you said, known as paradigm shifting, you can over time deconstruct the old neural network and construct a new, better one. But that process can be painful, because in the meantime you've got data collision.
Right. Well, I will guarantee you it will be painful. No one changes because they're comfortable. And one of my favorite philosophers said something I thought was pretty interesting. Francis Schaeffer. He said, "People will give up all their freedom to maintain their personal affluence." And so if your goal is comfort and personal affluence, no difficulty, freedom is not going to be where you're going to end up.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, the funny thing is, most people don't even know what comfort or comfortable actually means. All it means is that which you are used to. It's familiar territory. You know how to navigate it. You feel like you're on solid ground. That is uncomfortable is anything new, anything different, anything that you don't have previous experience for. Now, little kids, their idea of fun is always exiting their comfort zone. Oh, wow, that new thing over there. Let's go check that out. What's that over there? They haven't yet been taught to fear anything outside, of their comfort zone. Because all uncomfortable means is it's new and I don't have any experience. So when you basically have the Stockholm syndrome for your comfort zone, then diving into anything new feels like being pushed out of a plane without a parachute. It feels like a complete loss of control, even if the new thing is something very simple, no big deal. You know what I mean? There's still this terror, that comes with it for people that are locked into the Stockholm syndrome. Because societal Stockholm syndrome is exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. So, the other aspect of that is that I find that people who know that they're valuable and loved and secure, as with little children, a lot of little children are very secure because someone is caring for them. They don't have to worry about anything, so they are much more free to explore. And as an adult, what I've seen is people who have a strong sense of value, that's like it's beyond an emotional, intellectual level. It's like, I don't know, spiritual, for lack of a better term, something that's beyond your ability to understand. You know that you have value and that you're secure. Those are the people that I see that do the most transforming and live the freest lives, because they're not controlled, like you were saying before, by fear, or their fear of losing comfort, or their fear of having trouble. But in fact, they are actually free to experience or try whatever, because they know, irrespective of what happens, they're going to be all right. So their circumstances and future is their reality is not circumstantially based. And I see it all the time with people who their circumstances are basically the fulcrum with which they are living on. So if our circumstances are good, then everything's great. If the circumstances are bad, and again, circumstances are bad based on what? My filter of things.
Exactly. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten, and people don't realize they're putting themselves into a constant self-fulfilling prophecy.
I think the other thing that I see, though, and particularly as it relates to the psychiatric medications, I see many people who in their soul, in their gut, in their knower, whatever, they know that this isn't working. They know that the medication isn't working. But they feel trapped. They have no idea that there's another option. And certainly their doctor or the medical community isn't saying to them, it's a rare occasion that a person on these meds is told, well, why don't you explore some therapy? And so it's tragic to me that people feel in this trapped way. They have no way out. And it's really a pretty significant lie that's been told to them about who they are. And to me, that is just flat wrong. You could probably put some other words on that, something that wasn't broadcast, but I'm pretty irritated by that, and I've spent much of my life trying to reverse that process. But even Dr. Bregan, who's on a national level, he gets ridiculed on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
It's just how it is. So it doesn't deter me. I'm still going to do what I think is right. I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing, because there are a lot of people that can be helped. But I don't know that we're ever going to actually overturn the whole thing without its collapse. And with you, when you're talking about
it's going to collapse, because as you already know, the more things change, the more things change exponentially. It's always slow up the hill, but when you get to the top of the hill and you're going down the other side, gravity, kind of takes you down and forward. And right now we are in a process of, human collective paradigm shift, whether you want to relate it to quantum physics, esoterics, biblical prophecy, whichever platform you want to consider it under. We are in such a rapid state of acceleration that the only thing that can survive it is anything with integrity, because anything without integrity is like a house of cards. If you take a house of cards and you build it on the hood of a car, and then you start driving that car forward, obviously, what's going to happen to that house of cards? It's cards. It's playing cards. It's going to blow right off and just go all over the place. as far as faith, I like to say that everybody, and I mean everybody, has 100% faith. The question is, faith in what? Do you have faith in misery? Do you have faith in difficulty? Do you have faith in suffering? Or do you have faith in things that might actually benefit you? Because people think that having faith in things that will benefit you is wishful thinking, but it's actually not. It's not blind faith. People see faith and it's like, oh, faith is blind. No, it doesn't have to be. If you have faith in the fact that your two working legs actually work, then you're going to act in the direction of that faith, and you're going to get up out of your chair and walk. But even if your two legs work perfectly fine, if you have a belief system that says they don't, then you're going to sit in that chair going, oh, woe is me, I wish I could walk. And if anybody comes up and says, you know, your legs work fine, why don't you just get out of the chair? And you can be, no, they don't. They're broken. I wish someone would fix them. Even if 10 doctors examine and go, oh, your legs are perfectly fine. No, they're not. They're not. If someone has a belief system, people always act in the direction of belief systems. I also always tend to say the facts of any matter are irrelevant because people always act in the direction of their belief systems. And even if a belief system is total bunk, all actions have consequences, very real consequences. So if you take action based on a horseshit belief system, the consequences are going to be very unpleasant. But belief systems tend to disguise themselves as facts in people's heads from their paradigms. So if a belief system is having these nasty consequences, but people think it's a fact, then you try to tell them, well, just change your belief and act in a different direction. You're going to sound to them like you're suggesting sprouting wings and flying.
Well, and I've just learned from, you know, lots of experience, Dave and Richard, that, you know, change is a difficult process. And it requires a lot of care. And when I say care, I don't mean, you know, easy care. I mean like being full of care for someone to help them navigate those difficulties. Because like you're explaining, there are many barriers to our transformation. And if you look at history, you just see it so over and over and over and over again, how, you know, change has been resisted every time. And so my hope is that, you know, in the process of having the discussion, we can get people to at least ask the question, you know, maybe cause a seed of doubt about the foregone conclusion that the pharmaceutical industries are telling you the truth. Because the fact is, they're lying through their teeth. And there's evidence of that, and they've suppressed it, and suppressed it, and suppressed it. And subsequently, many people have died as a result of those lies. And
reminds me of a particular Bible verse. I can't remember the book and chapter or whatever, but it says something to the effect of to any in the pursuit of condemnation without investigation, such a fool will suffer their folly, or something to that effect.
Yeah. And so, you know, like when you were talking about before, like just one of the things that has dumbfounded me in amazement is the effectiveness of the pharmaceutical ad campaign that basically took an abject lie and made it gospel truth.
Well, I'm going to use a Hitler quote as to the effectiveness. Tell a lie, make it as big as possible, and tell it frequently, and eventually the masses will believe it is true.
Yeah, but they were touting false science to validate their lie, and that's the other thing that just bothers me, is that, you know, psychiatrists are supposed to be carrying people with a scientific understanding, and
Hitler did that too.
They're the purveyors of the lie.
and they're getting paid for it. I mean, psychiatrists don't even learn how to do therapy anymore. They're just med management. So you go and you pay 200, 300, whatever bucks for 15 minutes for, to get your medication adjusted. They have no concept of what the context of your life is, what's going on, what your stress levels are, who's in your life, what you believe, what you think. They don't know any of that, because all they believe is that if I give them this medication, they'll be magically better. If that's the case, why don't people get better?
Yeah, no kidding.
Why aren't the peace levels changing?
What's kind of really interesting to me is, we're already beginning to see, really dangerous side effects of that system, because, you look in the news a lot more recently lately with pharmaceuticals and psychotropic drugs, and you look at all these mass shooters and stuff that have gone to schools and taken out their rage on people and killed, innocent people. Now, whether or not, there's all kinds of different theories and different possibilities behind, how those guys got guns, and, was there people within the government that were, setting them up to do that,
regardless of how, those people were still...
Regardless of how, yeah, those people were, they were products of the pharmaceutical industry, and, you look into the background history of some of those guys, they were all on a regimen of pills, for depression and anxiety and all these different other symptoms that, like you said, they paid $300, $400 for 15 minutes to go sit down in an office somewhere and have some guy write on a yellow notepad what his symptoms were, and then go to the little prescription, form or whatever, scribble his name on there for whatever medication out of the book, and go, rip it off and give it to him and go, here you go, And unfortunately, that lack of attention, that lack of care, that belief system of, oh, here's what's wrong with you, here's what's going to treat you, and then, oh, you come to find out that drug isn't going to treat you, and, unfortunately, it just leads to this destructive path until the person inside there, the genuine person that probably just needs some help and some guidance and, a pat on the back that, if you start today and, work to make yourself better every day, you'll be all right. Unfortunately, that person on the inside snaps, and they get this ludicrous, crazy idea to go kill a senator, or shoot a bunch of kids in an elementary school, or go to a theater and to a movie premiere, or go down to a university campus somewhere because they believe that nobody loves them and nobody cares about them, when in reality there's probably plenty of people that would love them and care about them, but they've been taught to believe the cycle of neurosis, the cycle of I'm weak, I'm pathetic, I'm stupid. It's something that I see so often. Total Stockholm syndrome. It's something that I see so often now. I see so many people going through it. It's just, it's sad, but it's.
The other thing I want to make sure we mention here is that the other thing that's important to note here is that the psychotropic medications also create suicidal and homicidal ideation. By their manipulation of the brain chemistry. There have been many cases, one, because the evidence is so overwhelming that it was the medication that created the very symptom it's given to treat. And that's why on the medication. When you try to get off the medication, like benzodiazepines, for example, your Xanaxes and the anti-anxiety meds, their main side effect of withdrawal is severe anxiety. So you take the medication for anxiety, you try to get off it, your anxiety goes up, you think you're still sick, but really it's the withdrawal of the medication, which the doctor's not going to tell you that it has a withdrawal factor. Most doctors don't know.
Total scam, yeah. One thing I was going to say earlier is that even Hitler scientists figured out that there's no particular race or type of person that has any particular genetic propensity for any particular type of behavior or what have you, but the whole Aryan race thing was a really great psychological weapon, because what their ultimate goal was, and it's the same goal that is still out there by the psychopaths in control of this world, is population reduction, because the smaller population you have and the more whacked out of their minds they are, they're easier to control. And psychopaths are always all about control. As far as the stuff you were saying about, people shifting out of their problems through, addressing it instead of, going on all these meds that are just going to totally, fuck up their brains, make them suicidal, so on and so forth. Right. Is that you can't change what you don't own. And in the Stockholm Syndrome state, people are not owning their own emotions. They're seeing their own emotions as some sort of etheric external boogeyman that's hiding behind the bush, waiting to jump out at them and attack them. They're totally externalizing their own emotions. Because one thing that I mean, and for me, myself personally, the quickest way to not be sad is to let yourself be sad. You end the negative feedback loop. The quickest way to calm down from anger is let yourself be really pissed off. You end the negative feedback loop. You're owning your emotions. You're saying, I have the right to feel this way. Granted, I don't like the way I'm feeling, but I'm feeling it, and I have the right to. Because you can't change what you don't own. If you don't own it, then it's this etheric boogeyman, this ghostly boogeyman that you can't stop. And it keeps coming at you, validating the victimization mentality, so you can keep pointing at it and go, see, there it is, it keeps happening, I can't do anything about it, I am a victim. Plus, there is a chemical component that most people don't understand too, and I've talked about this as well, but for the uninitiated, I know I'm about to say everything you already know, but for the uninitiated, there's a part of the brain called the hypothalamus. And for every emotion you've ever and never felt, there is a neuropeptide. And the body, being like a biological computer, for every emotion, there is an electrical frequency, just like when you hit the keys on the keyboard, only with these electrical frequencies, it tells the hypothalamus which neuropeptide to release into the bloodstream so that you're literally feeling the emotion in your body. And things like stress hormones are incredibly corrosive, so corrosive in fact that they use synthetic stress hormone in anti-organ rejection medications to cripple your immune system so that the body doesn't start attacking the new organ. It gives the body time to accept that organ. And the news and everything else, we are being pumped with 24/7 freaking fear. Plus the corrosive neuropeptides, they have their own withdrawal symptoms too. As a matter of fact, the reason that people can have heroin addictions and cocaine addictions and things like that is because those chemicals are close enough in makeup to the corresponding neuropeptides that the cell lets it in because it fits into the freaking receptor. So we literally have chemical withdrawal as soon as we start to feel happy. People are addicted to drama. So that's why as soon as they start feeling confident, sure of themselves, happy, they go do something self-sabotaging and destructive in order to get those previous corrosive neuropeptides flowing again. Just like how a crack addict won't pay their rent, won't buy food, will abandon their family, do all of these destructive things just to get the money to get their neck fixed in order to avoid the pain of the withdrawal symptoms. This is literally what's going on. You know this already. I know this, but I'm just saying it for, whoever might be watching. I know I'm preaching to the choir with both of you.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's funny to me that many of the people that I have had the privilege of working with come with an already predetermined, what I would call self-destructive value statement of themselves. You used other language, but they believe they're defective, they're less than, they're not good enough, they're worthless, whatever. And there's lots of reasons why that's been
the case. There are very real experiences that that person experienced, and either they were real injustices or perceived injustices, but either way, now they're the person, so they're real, right? That self-destructive value system is the very thing that then makes the drug addiction seem okay, because, hey, I'm a worthless piece of junk anyway, might as well act like that. So when I see somebody behaving in a self-destructive manner, I know they always have a belief structure that says, I'm worthless. Okay, so then you go to the doctor, the psychiatrist, and you have this belief structure, so you're struggling with whatever, depression, anxiety, whatever, and he says, yep, pretty much you're defective, so here's this medication, good luck. Now the thing that was supposed to help you just confirmed the very lie that's destroying you. Tragic.
Yeah, exactly. And another reason that happens is because our current school system is based on the Prussian model. And in the Prussian model, which was the model that Nazi Germany used, by the way, was to eliminate critical thinking and to completely conform to blind obedience. Because if you can think critically and you've gone through a school system to build up the neural networks to think critically, then you can say to yourself, okay, I feel worthless, I believe this and that and blah, blah, blah. But is it true? I think it's true, I feel that it's true, everything I see on my external validates that it's true, but am I missing something? Is there data that I'm missing that can disprove this? Because just like any valid science, real science, not the pseudoscience that the science community's turned into, but real science tries to simultaneously prove and disprove everything they encounter to see which happens. Science has pretty much become the pursuit of funding through ego, so it's all about being right. And because
it's also become a religion.
Yeah, Einstein warned us of that. Don't let science become a religion. And because a particular scientific view becomes an industry with shareholders and profit margins and so on and so forth, now the perpetuation of obsolete data is a profitable market, which means new data is a threat to that market.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and the tragedy is that, particularly from my point of view, the psychiatric industry becoming profit-oriented instead of people-oriented, and I think it's happened across the spectrum in medicine, is that, the dollar's more important than the person sitting in the office, which is why I'm only going to give them 15 minutes instead of actually something that can be helpful. And so, when the whole system is set up to devalue the person, well, we're going to have a giant mess. And that's what I see over and over again, is that, the system is not working. And don't get me started on the mental health system, because, there's another tragedy in our culture. And I would refer you to a good book, if you're interested. It's called Mad in America, and it's about the mental health system of America and what we do to people that are supposedly mad, and how inhumanely we've dealt with it over the centuries. And we're not much farther along now. We like to tell ourselves we are, but not really. So we've just outsourced it to medication and zombified people, and so they don't have to be dealt with. But that whole message system of you're not worth anything, the dollar's more important to you. No one ever says that, but everybody experiences that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, one thing that I tell people, whether or not you're talking about governmental systems or medical systems or psychiatric systems or whatever,
they're intertwined.
When people start to realize that things might not be quite right, they always say, oh my God, these systems are broken. And I tell them, here's some food for thought. What if these systems are actually working perfectly you've just been lied to about what they are designed to do. What if these systems are not designed to help you? What if they are designed to bend you over and fit a redwood tree? What if that's what they're actually designed to do? You only perceive these systems as broken because you don't understand what they are actually designed to do. Now, when you see that these systems are designed to screw you over, you see that these systems actually work perfectly. You look around at society, you see how things are, and you see that they are working perfectly. They are actually doing what they are designed to do.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's really tragic too, because you know, I live in the end of the pool where I'm picking up pieces all the time of circumstances and situations with people, and you know, I see so much of it is completely avoidable. You know, particularly to the level that many of these tragedies happen. But you know, and if we digressed from the political or the governmental or the medical systems, and we moved into family systems, you have a whole nother situation there where there are family systems that are actually designed to harm. I don't know that anybody sat down and designed it that way, but regardless of how it got that way, that's the way it operates. So the family system, which is geared to nurture and to grow and to enable, becomes the thing that destroys.
Not to mention, even beyond family systems, just the idea of genuine, valid relationships. Like, if you're an orphan with no family whatsoever, but you have a sincere, genuine, caring, honest-to-God support group of people around you, then that's your family. It doesn't have to be blood. You don't have to have the same blood running through you.
Absolutely. Well, you know, it's funny because years ago I read some research that guys that went to Vietnam that came from abusive homes did really well in combat, and came home and did horrible. But guys who came from good families and were cared for went to combat and did horribly, and came back and did well. Because the system that they lived in for the guys that were abused taught them how to have the skills to you know, block things out, to disassociate, to handle trauma. The guy that didn't live in that home, he was traumatized when he went to war. The guy who was traumatized as a kid, oh, I get this. But when they come home, that's where the difference is. And it's to your point, Dave, which is that they were cared about. And that was the difference in how they did after return. Do they have relationships that are meaningful and loving? And I don't mean, when I say meaningful, I don't mean perfect. I mean healthy. And you know, I just see that that's a microcosm of what you see all the time in various ways.
Yeah, I totally and completely agree with you. And another problem, I think, is because our educational system has been designed around the Prussian model, and when you mix that in with politics, it creates a belief system that one of our I think it was Thomas Reed, if I'm not mistaken, back in the 1800s. He said, he warned against the idea of people thinking that legislation is some sort of magic talisman against crime. How often do we hear people say, well, there's no way that criminals could be doing that because it's illegal.
Right.
Those corporations couldn't get away with that. The CEOs would be put in jail, and the corporation would be being taken to court. And
with enough money, you know, it's incredible, you know. these are the same corporations that pass all kinds of sorts of laws every day that protect them, you know, through the ear, you know, and everybody acts like, you know, unfortunately, we're in a state of history right now where the U.S. Constitution is getting, you know, completely raped daily, but, you know, everybody acts. I mean, not that the Constitution isn't a strong document, it isn't a founding document, it isn't not good principles. They're all very good principles that this nation is the embodiment of, but the problem is people have been so psychologically washed into it's unbreakable, it can't be broken, it can't be, you know, manipulated, twisted, turned, and they totally use that to their advantage. The pharmaceutical companies, the insurance industry, the, you know, the central banks, all the way up to the top, they're twisting rules and laws every day, and when you try to do the same thing, they'll throw your ass in jail for 20 to life and throw away the key and not even think about it. You know?
Yeah, knowledge is not power. Practical application of knowledge is power. So yeah, the Constitution's a great document, but what's a document? It's knowledge. Without application of knowledge, you know, what you put out, you get back. It's not only a law of quantum physics, it's practical. If you put nothing into something, expect to get back exactly what you put into it. You put nothing into it, expect absolutely nothing back.
Hey fellas, I got to get on the road here. I got another appointment to get to. Anything else we want to discuss before I got to roll?
One other thing I was going to say before I forget to say it.
Okay.
Is that one thing that I've noticed in this society, and I mean I can speak for myself, that, you know, on this as well, you know, coming from my own experiences. Sure. Because things keep getting so intense with all of this psychosis and things unraveling, people eventually reach what I've referred to as a fuck it point, and people are going to take one of two roads when they hit the fuck it point. Either desperation is going to breed genius, and they're going to say, okay, I surrender. My mind is open. I am open to any other thing that I had not been open to before because I'm completely sick of the way things have been. Or the other road is complete and total self-destruction. And if somebody is bent on destroying themselves, there's nothing you could do to save them. All you can do is steer clear of them when the nuke drops. Otherwise, you're going to get caught in the blast.
I agree, and I've often thought of, you know, since we're talking about the pharmaceutical companies, I wanted to make a drug, and I wanted to call it Fuck It All.
Oh, I've used the Fuck It All and Damn It All references before. There's something.
Once I take the drug, I just don't care. So just fuck it all. I don't care, and then I'm happy, right? But your point is very well taken. I think that's true, Dave. That and you know, I see this all the time, that the desperation or the inspiration, depending on what happens, leads people to the point of entering my office. It's either the pain is so great that they have to do something, and there's what you talked about there is a very clear point there where somebody decides or gives in, however you want to put it, to I'm going to change, I'm going to look for something different, I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to expend the energy, or they just go, screw it, or fuck it, and then off they go into whatever self-destruction. And here's the other thing I would say. I've seen a lot of people be self-destructive in good ways. They do things.
Oh, yeah, it's called benign narcissism.
Yeah. So, in one of the ways I've seen it most hideous is in religion. People becoming highly religious as a way to become better, but in that process, they don't become better; they become worse, and their pathology steepens. But now they're using God as their justifying rule. And
it reminds me of the philosophy. I forgot if it was Plato or who it was that said it. They said, you fight what you become, so instead of fighting the old, build the new. In other words, change the environment so that the old is no longer compatible with the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll send you a link on this later. Obviously, not going to go
Okay.
into it now. But I made a fake drug commercial parody just to be funny, and
I can't wait.
the name I chose for the drug is Obeitol amphetamine.
Well, I can't wait to enjoy that with you know. I'm sure I will get a great kick out of that. Maybe I'll
be disappointed, Patrick.
I'll send you the link over Skype later.
Okay.
You won't be disappointed, Patrick. It's a really good one. It's funny.
And
yeah, by the way,
you have it just on a file somewhere? Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I'll send you the link. It's on YouTube.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys talking about this. I appreciate you inviting me on, and maybe in the future we can do some more.
Oh, absolutely. And just so the viewing audience knows, the reason you can't see Patrick is for some reason because Mac killed his computer's inner child. The Google plugin would not install properly, so I'm using the Skype to Google Hangout hardware gateway bridge that I've set up here. Otherwise, you would be able to see him, but Google said fail.
We'll get it regulated next time.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Hit it with a hammer or something. I heard Macs make for good doorstops.
Oh, watch it now.
I'll have to send you the Mac killed my inner child video. And for everybody else watching, go into YouTube and just do a search for the keywords Mac killed my inner child. You'll find the video, guaranteed.
I'll find it. I'll look forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Definitely look forward to more at some point. And I hope that everybody who watches this takes you seriously. But hey, don't believe Patrick. Don't disbelieve Patrick. Engage critical thinking. Do your own research. Come to your own conclusions. If you follow the establishment or follow Patrick, it's still following. You're still a sheep. Don't be a sheep. Think critically. Draw your own conclusions. Ask lots of questions.
Right. Live free.
Yep. And don't die hard.
Yeah. Hey, see you later, Richard.
Yep.
See you, Patrick.
Catch you later. Catch you later, Patrick.
Bye.
Yep. Later. That was good. So, any final thoughts on anything?
Well, I didn't really say as much as I thought I was going to say. I've been mainly listening because you guys have been throwing good points back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I've been doing mostly listening and, just pondering what you guys are saying, and, anything that I could really add or throw in has already been said for me either by proxy of you or by Patrick. So,
Yeah.
I don't really, I feel that everything that has needed to be discussed in this discussion, or, this part one discussion, if you want to call it that, has been discussed, concluded, followed through with plenty of, talk back and forth. And,
Katarina is going to love this guy. I hope next time we have him on, I hope that, I hope Katarina can, be on with us, because I really think she'll enjoy talking with Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
I think Daphne'd like him too. I think Kristen like him too.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody'd like this guy.
No, from personal experience, in my own background, he's very, he attacks things logically, discusses things logically, broadens perspectives, and that's always, what's the direct quote? Let me find it. Washington, it was one of the founding fathers who said this, and it's very true. And this kind of has psychological implications on.
Yeah, he's not a malignant twasticist that goes posting attack journals in DeviantArt groups.
Yeah. paradigm shift spam, paradigm shift is a narcissist, paradigm shift is a pedophile.
All because I had the audacity of not agreeing with someone on everybody. Oh, I did not bow to the gods of blind obedience. I've committed the ultimate blasphemies, so that makes me everything horrible and bad because I have blasphemed as a heretic against the ego of the psychopaths.
Where is it?
Shame on me.
Let's see. Okay. Famous quotes. It's one of the founding fathers who said it. Precisely. There are so many good quotes by the founding fathers, you gotta go. It's just absolutely amazing. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry you didn't state your answer in the form of a question.
Maybe it was Thomas Jefferson.
I'm sorry, WTF does not count as a question. If worst comes to worst, paraphrase.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, it was one of the founding fathers, and it was mainly reflecting on the importance of surrounding yourself with high and sober spirits, surrounding yourself with like-minded people that will support your goals and aspirations, of essentially forming mutual relationships with others, and Patrick is one of those kind of people, he's very relatable. He's been, to a lot of countries. He's seen a lot of places. He's been on the rock bottom, many times. He's been there. He's done that. He knows how things work in the real world, and he's very relatable with people and where they're coming from, and he can spot, a fake personality from, a mile away, and he can spot genuine real people just like that, So, yeah, no, Patrick's between Patrick and you guys pretty much summed up anything that I could have possibly thrown into the discussion, or, besides what little I contributed this time around, and we pretty much summed up everything that needed to be said at this point in time. So I don't really feel I have anything else to add, but that he's one of those good sober spirits that the founding fathers talk about.
Yep, and I think before we end this, 1 second. I'm going to, once I can pull it up here. There we go. I'm going to disengage my headphones and I'm going to play Obey It All, Apathetamine. Here comes. I used to exhibit very inappropriate behavior, and all of my friends and family were extremely concerned for my well-being. I asked questions. I didn't blindly obey what I was told. I had unpatriotic, treasonous notions such as freedom, sovereignty, solidarity, and equality. I just wasn't being the productive, mindless zombie drone that society needed me to be. I went to a psychologist and found out that there was hope for me yet. I was diagnosed with DECIT disorder, D-E-C-I-C-T, or Discernment, Empathetic, Compassionate, Individuality, Critical Thinking Disorder. The doctor told me there is no cure. However, there is a prescription medication that I could take to help make the burden of my disease more manageable. Clinically tested Obeitol amphetamine. Please consult your doctor before you try Obeitol amphetamine. Side effects may include sudden catastrophic implosion of your kidneys, rapid development of brain cancer, permanent spinal paralysis, erectile dysfunction, liver rotting, severe mental retardation, excruciating insufferable pain, and in some cases, very slow and agonizing death has occurred. Thanks to prescription Obeitol amphetamine, I've become the narrow-minded, self-absorbed, apathetic, psychotic, vain, narcissistic sociopath, mindless sheep that government, religion, and corporate entities require me to be. Now I can live a normal life, getting fat, eating GMOs, drinking fluoridated water, and watching useless garbage on TV. I never told you a Common Core student. Rich, you do realize you're muted.
Yeah, I just
Well, I think we can probably end on that note. So, thanks everybody for watching, and I'm sure we'll have Patrick back on again. Have a good day, morning, night, whatever it is on your part of the planet. Catch you later.